Hey, hello, beginning programming. Sorry I can't be there today. I am very sick and I won't go into it too much. I'm going to be fine. I'll be back hopefully next week and it'll all be good. But for the meantime, I'm going to try and teach you a lesson over YouTube. And I'm using this Cam app to record my face because I couldn't get the OBS software just to get my camera. So I have this box around my face, which I know is not how it's supposed to be done, but it's just gonna be there for this lesson. This is my kitchen. Hello, kitchen. It's got some light, so I can do this lesson. Hey, check this out. I can make the box disappear. Ready? Boom. It's gone. Oh, it's back. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm gonna shut up now. I'm not going to shut up. I'm going to shut up about silly things. I'm going to go switch over to talking about what we're doing today. So hopefully you've been working on your Pong project, and best case scenario, that's all done, and you're ready to hand that in. If you're not quite ready to hand it in yet, I'm not checking it until next week. Obviously, I'm not there today. I can't see you right now. So I'm not going to check it. So you can take it home over the weekend and finish up any last minute things you have to do with that project. But today, you need to get started on the new assignment, and we're going to actually do a series of new things for the next little while. We're going to be starting with loops, specifically the while loop will be a new piece of code that we've not done before in this class. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to use it to generate some patterns today. Ultimately, that's not what we're going to use it for. Ultimately, we're going to use it for automating our code, and it's going to be so good. When we want to do more advanced things, like have thousands of objects moving around on the screen at the same time, you're going to want to have loops to kind of automate your code. So you have to write 5,000 lines of code for 5,000 different things. So that's going to be fantastic. But we're going to look at it today just in terms of patterns. Patterns are, they're pretty and they're visual, and it's a good place to start with making loops. After that, once we get loops under control, we're going to go take a look at data structures. So things like lists will be a good example of that. And then after we got the data structures under control, we're going to learn about object-oriented programming, which is my favorite kind of programming. It will allow us to do some really cool stuff that we can't currently do, or it would be very painful to do. Okay, so that's what we're doing today. We're doing loops. So without much ado, I just want to get started and show you that other people are going to do this kind of stuff. Actually, maybe I'll just show you what we're going to do first. Here we go. Hello. These are some of the patterns we're going to be generating today. I'm not going to show you how to do them, but I will show you how to make a while loop. And then your activity today is going to be basically trying to make these different patterns. And I'll go over them in more detail as we get there. I'll show you first how to make a while loop, and then I'll talk about each of these different patterns and what is its sort of recipe, if you will, or what makes it different or complicated. Okay, so let's get started with learning what a while loop is. I think I'll disappear here, and that's probably just fine. Yeah, wow, what? Here we are. So I'm going to show you what a while loop looks like, and then we'll get going. So oftentimes in a while loop, you'll need some kind of variable to count. Usually we call this variable I, and that's a long story as to why. The letter I is a variable that's not used too much. X, Y, Z, N, all those variable names are pretty common, so I is not common. And also it often stands for index, which we won't learn about until we do lists. But it's a common variable we're going to use to count with. And here's what a while loop looks like. Let's make a while loop that counts from 0 to 10. That's such a common thing to do in computer science. So I'll show you what it looks like, and then we'll break it down. I equals I plus 1. Oh, I can't type. All right, here we go. Here's our amazing while loop. So here's how a while loop works. A while loop kind of looks like an if statement, right? If you made an if statement here, this code would still work. So in some ways it's like an if statement, but there's an element of repetition in it that makes it do something over and over again. So here's the story. First we're going to make I, and its value is going to be 0. So a while loop sort of acts like an if statement. So it says, if this is true, then do this. You could even think of it as an if statement when you're trying to come up with this condition. But we use while because we want it to come back again from the end of the loop to the beginning again. So the difference between an if and a while is that an if just asks this question once, but a while loop keeps asking this question until the answer is no. It's very persistent. It's like a persistent if statement. So I'll show you what happens here. I starts at 0. Is 0 less than 10 or equal to 10? Sure is. So we increase it by 1. And at the end of a while loop, this is like the critical thing. It goes back to the condition again and asks the question. Is I still less than 10? And I is 1, and 1 is less than 10. So it adds it up, goes to 2. And then at the end of it, it goes back to the condition. 2 is less than 10, so it increases it to 3. Go back to the condition. 3 is less than 10, so it becomes 4, and so on. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Eventually it becomes 11. It goes back to the condition. 11 is not less than 10, and so it's done. The loop is done, and it breaks out of the loop, and then whatever is the next thing that happens is what happens. If I run this code, you won't see anything really happen. I can show you. I can go ahead and run it. It counts to 10, but we don't see any proof of it. So what I'm going to do is add in some print statements. I'm going to use this function called print line. What it does, this is an ln, by the way, L as in lion or laser, and an N. And it will print to the console. This is this black void down here is called the console. So I'm going to print line I. And at the end, I'll print line done, just so you can see what happens when a while loop finishes. So if we run this, we'll see, there it goes, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, done. So what's happening here is, I guess I'll get that there. We already kind of ran through it. The only thing we've changed now is that before we add 1 to I, we print it, and it shows up in the terminal. And that's a fine loop. If we wanted to print to 100, here's a good thought experiment right now. We want to print to 100. What do we need to change here? We want to go from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to 98, 99, 100. So what do we got to change? It's the condition right here. If we made that 100, this thing would keep going all the way to 100. I'll show you. Run. There it is. Look, it counted from 1, or 0 actually, all the way to 100. And then it's done. So this is an example of how this loop is automating things for us. It's making things easier to code. If we had to manually print out all the numbers from 0 to 100, that would be a tedious task. But because we have this while loop, we can automate that process. We could go to whatever number we want. It doesn't really matter. Without adding any more lines of code, this while loop can count ever higher. So that's fantastic. How does that look? Does that look good? Should we try another example? Maybe you should try. I'd recommend pausing the video. And here's what I would recommend you attempt. Well, don't pause it yet. Let's listen to me say what I'm going to say. But after I tell you, pause the video, go try it, see if you can make it work. Let's try to print all the numbers from, let's do all the even numbers from 2 to 42, inclusive. So also print 42. What do you think? Go for it. Do it. Pause me. Okay, did you pause me? Are you back? Are you back now? You want to see how it works? So we're going to go from 2 to 42. There's some people out there that didn't pause me. You should try it yourself. If you totally lost, that's fine. Give it a try. If it's wrong, who's going to know? Give it a shot. Try it out. Here's your last chance. Did you try it? Okay. All right, let's go for it. So here's int I. So it says we're starting from 2. So not 0 anymore. Starting from 2. I is our counting number, right? and we're going to go to 42. So I'll change this to 42. And then we're going to do even numbers only. So I'm just going to go up by 2s. I'm going to increase it by 2 each time. And that hopefully work out nicely for us. How is this working? Is this making sense? I'm not too sure. So do ask people around you. And if you are struggling with this at all, make sure you remember these questions. Write down some questions about what you're having trouble with and bring them up next class. I would love to answer your questions about this. Okay, so let's run it and see what happens. Do we get the even numbers from 2 to 42? Running it. Let's see. I don't know where to look. I'm technically looking there, but I want to pretend I'm looking there. Oh, look at that. Yeah, we did get it. Notice our graphics window here isn't really doing much work. We're just printing to the console, so I'm just going to get rid of it. But yeah, 2, 4, 6, 8, all the way down to 42, and we're done. So hopefully that made sense, and you were able to do that exercise. If you didn't try it yourself, then you missed out. But you know what? Honestly, you can generate a bajillion possibilities. Hey, you know what? Here's another one. Let's just do it slightly different. This time, let's count down. Let's count down from 100 to 1. That's it. Just, 99, 98, 97, all the way down to 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, pause me. Do it. Try it. Okay, I'm paused. I'll make a stupid face. You can pause it right there. Now, we're back. And you're going to try. Hopefully, you already did try. I'm going to try and make that happen. So now we're going to go from 100 down to 1. All right. I don't know what my facial expression is doing. So we're starting at 100. So we're going to start with 100 there. Going down to 1. Oh, but you can't just type in a 1 there, because this is as long as I is greater than 1. No, less than 1. Is 100 less than 1? No. So this sign actually is going to end up being the wrong way. But I'll just do a quick demonstration of that. We have I equals I minus 1 as well. We want to go down by 1. So if you got this, you just kind of change that to a 1. Check out what happens. I'm going to run this, and it just says done. And you might be confused as to why it didn't count. 100, 99, 98, 97, all the way down to 1. And the reason is because the first thing it asks, the first question is, hey, we keep doing this while I is less than or equal to 1. 100 is not less than 1. You know that, but until I point that out, sometimes it's hard. So in this case, we actually want to keep going as long as they're greater or equal to 1. As long as I is greater than equal to 1. So, you gotta, these are fairly formulaic, but you do have to consider them carefully as you rate them. Okay, so I'm going to run that. Now let's see if that works. This box around my head is driving me crazy. Okay, yeah, it looks like it worked okay. Yeah. And you would think that, oh man, they're going to get so much harder, right? This is going to be so hard. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Honestly, this is about as hard as we really need to know while loops for this course. There's so much we can do with just counting by ones with the while loops. So we're going to transition now into doing something with patterns. We're going to put this I to use inside of other functions so that we can change, the shape of lines and positions of things and stuff like that and move around. And that's sort of the secret of loops. On its own, nobody cares if the computer can count to 100 or whatever. It's that number can be used to do work. I just wanted to share a quick website that I found a few years ago. This is the website of a designer. Her name is Libs Elliott. She's Canadian. And she actually uses processing to generate patterns for quilts. And she sells them for hundreds of dollars. They're beautiful. And she combines code and quilting to make super awesome quilts. And these are all sort of patterns that she's used some sort of loop to generate. So we're going to make some fairly simple patterns compared to Libs, where these aren't going to make $1,000 quilts, but they're a good place to start. And I'm sure Libs probably started somewhere else. Hey, Libs, if you're just checking out this video, The odds are like tiny. But hey, send us the hi. We love your quilts. Let's oh yeah, I was going to show you the patterns we're going to try. So yeah, we're going to make some things like grids. You know, if I open this up, I'm not sure how this will work. What the default program is for opening these things. It's kind of zoomed in, but whatever. You know, if you were to draw that yourself, what a pain, right? How many line functions do you have to put in there? I think there's 20 horizontal lines and 20 vertical lines. What a pain! That's 40 lines of code. And yeah, no one wants to do that. So let's find out how you can use while loops to make these things happen. Some of the other patterns are a little funkier. I like some of these nested rectangles and stuff like that. And we'll go over in more detail exactly what you're supposed to do for these things and how you can get them to be colored and that kind of stuff. Okay, so let's get started. So I'm going to change this up. I'm going to make, these are going to be graphical, so I'm going to have a size, 400, 400. You might notice I've gone away from setup and draw. There's none of that. We've gone back to the beginning of processing again, where we've left those things alone. And that just is to simplify things and so we can focus on the while loop. I'm going to do a background of white, just so this stuff shows up. And that's going to be sort of our start. So first of all, what we'll do is, eventually we're going to do a grid. I just showed you the grid idea there. You're going to want to make this grid in a minute. But before we do that, I'm going to show you how to make just a row of vertical lines and then just a row of horizontal lines. Two separate sketches, and you can bring them together to make a grid. And here's how it's going to work. I know my sketch is 400 wide, right? So I'm going to start at 0, and I'm going to draw a line. And I'm going to use I in my align function to sort of position where it's going to be. I want to keep on going as long as we haven't reached the end yet, so it starts at 0. We'll keep on going until it's less than or equal to 400. You could type in width here as well. That would be a good choice. That way, if you change the size of your window, then this code will still work. So that's nice. I'll keep the print line in there. It might be nice while we're debugging things to see like what's happening. Is it doing stuff that makes sense? But I'll also include a line function in there. I'm going to draw a line. For vertical lines, I need to draw from the top of the screen to the bottom of the screen. And so top and bottom is all about the y coordinates. So there's going to be sort of an xy pair here, right, for a line. So the y coordinates for the first one is going to be 0, and the bottom one's going to be height, or 400, whatever you want to put there. I'll put height. But that's just going to be 400 in our example. So what goes in the x coordinates? Well, I'm going to put in our I variable. I. And then I'm going to increase I by some number. I'll do it by 20. So the first time we draw a line, it'll go from 0, 0 to 0 height. And then it'll go from 20, 0 to 20 height. And then 40, 0 to 40 height. And so on, all the way up to 400, 0, 400 height. And so we'll get this nice set of vertical lines. I'll run it and we'll take a look. Oh, I did a thing. I'll try again. Oh, there he is. Hey, check out my vertical lines. Peter's having some troubles here, but yeah, there's my vertical lines. Just went straight across. How would we change this to do horizontal lines? Well, actually, maybe I'll just demonstrate. One of the reasons I used width and height is because I could do like this. I could do 800, and it'll keep on going all the way across. And I didn't have to change my code, it just kind of automatically did it. So that's the advantage of width and height. I'll put that back to 400 though. So now what if I wanted to do horizontal lines, so kind of stack from top to bottom? So for horizontal lines, again, you want to do x, y, x, y. And you got to think about what's changing now. So So for horizontal lines, the y coordinate is going to be kind of increasing each time. Because we're going to put the first one at the top at 0, and then we're going to put the next one down below it, 20 below it, and then 20 below that, and then 20 below that, and so on. So in this case, if we want to do the horizontal lines, then the y coordinate is actually going to be I. And if we want a horizontal line that stretches from one side of the screen to the other, we're going to go from 0 to width. And this is a square, so you're totally fine to leave this as width. But if it changed, you might be upset. So I'm going to switch that to be height. I'm going to run it. There you go. Now we got horizontal lines. So in other words, I'm going from, here's my pattern. I'll try to get both of these on the screen at the same time. It's not easy. Trackpad. I don't know. Why is this so hard? Can't actually drag you down. There we go. Alright, so here's my vertical lines, right? The first vertical line starts at 0, 0, and it goes to 0, 400, right? Because I is 0 at the beginning. So 0, 0, and then 400, 0. So that works out nicely. And the next one is 0, 20, and so on. And it just keeps on going down all the way. Okay, so I feel like my computer is getting a little bit shaky. So I'm going to stop this video, and then I'm going to come back with your full assignment of what you're supposed to do.